Psalm 122, verse 1. I was glad when they said to me, let us go to the house of the Lord. As Barry and I sit here today, we're glad, we're excited to share with you some information that's important as we consider, as we share the news of what our re-entry into in-person worship will look like here at St. Luke, here in our congregation. Before we get to those details, we want to share a little bit of scripture with you. And to get us going there, I want to throw you a question. Early on in this time, and even today, as we watch TV commercials, as we think about our life together as a country, as a county, the common refrain that we're hearing is that we're all in this together. We're in this together, we're going to get through it together. But let me ask you, what does that look like when we think about the church as a community of faith, as a congregation together? What does it look like as disciples of Jesus to be in this together as we think about re-entry into worship?
That's a great question, and I think it's one that has to be foremost on our minds, not just every day, but especially when we think about coming back together. We've had a theme during this time, gathered but scattered, Now we're going to be gathering together. What does that look like to be together? And the answer has to be this. It means that we come together as disciples who are called to serve. And that's a key word, to serve. I think that, Ben, that when we come together and we look at all of the things that we're going to lay out, we have to be in the mindset that Jesus Christ has called us to serve. To serve people, to serve one another, but ultimately to serve Him. My brother told me about a homeless statue, and I've shared it with the congregation before. There's a homeless statue made out of bronze or whatever, and you can't see the face of the person, but when you get down on your knees and you look into the hood, you realize it's Jesus. And it reminds me of that verse that you and I were talking about where Jesus says, truly I say to you, when you do this to the least of these, you've done it to me. And I think that's what being in this together looks like. That when I serve you, when I serve somebody else, it's Jesus I'm serving. And I think if we keep that in mind, then I believe Christ will unite us in true love and joy that is before us. So Ben, can you fill us in on the task force a little bit and what is being laid out there?
So as we talk about serving one another in an effort to serve Christ, that includes all of those earthly, physical things, the day-to-day realities, things like cleaning our sanctuary, things like wearing masks, like gloves, and all of those sort of things that I know are on your minds and are on ours. So to help us in making those decisions, we put a task force together, both that includes law enforcement professionals, but also medical professionals. And we are taking their lead as they're the ones who are well qualified, who know the state, the county, the national guidance on how best we can enter into this space both safely on a medical level, but also in a reverent, respectful, spiritual way that still allows us to gather as God's people to celebrate those gifts that God gives us, word and sacrament together as a community, as a congregation. So let me tell you a little bit about what the schedule will be as we re-enter worship. Beginning the week of June 16th, 17th, and 18th, that's a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, our first step back into the building is going to be in small groups of 25 people or less, specifically for gatherings of prayer and communion. We want to offer this as an opportunity to serve, to provide that thing that we have most been missing in these days of distance from each other, and that's coming together as a congregation to receive the Lord's Supper. So we are asking that for anyone who is interested in receiving the Lord's Supper, we are offering 2 time slots each day, 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. We're asking that if you are interested in receiving the Lord's Supper in a small group on any of those 3 days, that you call the church office or send an email to stluke@stlukecabot.org and request a particular time on a particular day. And we're going to work to work within those guidelines of gather in small groups of 25 or less. Particularly on Wednesday, we are reserving that morning slot of 10 a.m. for those who are considered high risk, those who are age 65 and above, and those who may have underlying medical conditions. Of course, we're going to respect your privacy. None of that information will be shared, but we want to offer an opportunity, particularly for those who may not have been out of their homes as much. We want to offer an opportunity that we take even greater care to clean our space, to gather together in a group that would let those who are most vulnerable still gather around the Lord's gifts. So June 16, 17, and 18, 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. Please email the church office or call the church office 724-352-2777 and RSVP for a particular time slot in that window. All of that is leading into the weekend of June 20th and 21st, when we will be back here on site for in-person worship. Let me tell you a little bit about what our worship schedule will be on the weekends. We are coming back to a schedule of 3 services on the weekend. Saturday night, 6 p.m., outside by the Pavilion. We're going to invite you to bring your own lawn chair if you are so able. And we're going to gather outside in a way that is familiar to you to have a full service. We're going to try and keep that service to about 50 minutes as we re-enter worship. We're going to celebrate the Lord's Supper together. And of course, we're going to be using social distancing in that time. For our Saturday outside services, I know the question of masks is probably on your mind. For our Saturday outside services, it is optional to wear a mask. We're going to recommend that you do so, but we're not going to require that. For our Sunday morning services, both are going to be in the sanctuary at 8 a.m. and 10:45 a.m. Both services on Sunday morning will be identical to each other. They're going to be very much like what you've experienced in your in-home online worship, a blended sort of model that combines both traditional and contemporary elements. We're excited about the possibility of being back in person and being able to include different elements of worship that we haven't been able to do very easily online. So as we think about re-entry into worship, what are some of those other things that we're thinking about, that we're planning for as we re-enter worship here inside?
Inevitably, Ben, one of the questions that comes up is about singing. That seems to be a popular question. For the immediate future, for the weeks to come, we're going to refrain from that. There will be music. It'll be a soloist, recorded and such. But until, we're going to practice extra caution because we are called to serve others in this way. And if it means making this place feel so safe that people then feel more comfortable in coming, then that's a win. That's a win. But you and I both love to sing, and we want to see that back, of course. Beyond that, I believe also that as we prepare for this, we want to make sure that this is a safe place to come, in cleanliness and in sanitizing it. And so the task force has spoken to that as well, have they not?
That's right. So our task force has put together guidelines that are in line with our state, with our national guidance on how best to keep this space clean. Let me put out a plea to you. It is going to be very important that you come back and continue your service, continue your ministry in the church. We are going to have an opportunity for volunteers to come into the sanctuary. We'd like to train you on what it will look like to put into practice those cleaning habits and guidelines that we are going to move forward with as a congregation. And so we're going to invite any of you age 18 and above, men and women, to come to church next Wednesday evening, the 11th, for a time where we're going to train you not only on cleaning practices, but also, if you are so willing, our elders are going to be taking the lead on ushering on helping you come into the building. They're actually going to show you to a seat, much like you would happen at a wedding. They're going to be in charge of the social distancing guidelines, but we need to provide them some help and some support. So please, if you are age 18 and above, men or women, we'd invite you to come to church if you are willing and able after any of the services going forward to help clean. This is as simple as a spray bottle and a rag and wiping down pews that you see, the tops of pews that hands might touch, as well as those high contact, high frequency touch areas, doorknobs, handles, handrails, all of that sort of thing. This task can be accomplished by anyone. So we would invite you, if you are so inclined, to participate in helping us keep our space safe and clean. Please consider coming to that training next Wednesday, the 11th, at 6:30 p.m.
Something else, and there's so much information we could share, but I think something important to make sure that we do share, and that's this, that when you come here to worship, we will practice social distance. And what that might look like, I realize, Ben, that probably we should have been seated like this, because this is what it's going to look like in part. It'll be every other pew to give that space. And we won't go into all the details of how that's going to be with family clusters and all, but rest assured that we are here again once to respect those guidelines that we have, including how we sit in worship.
So I've just realized that I've given you the right day of the week, but not the right date on the calendar. Next Wednesday, our cleaning and our ushering training is the 10th. Wednesday, the 10th of June at 6:30 p.m.
Got it. I think that covers the essential stuff, I hope, but you know, Ben, I don't like wearing these. I don't. Before this began, early March, I was in Arizona at an airport. None of this was on the horizon like it is now. And I saw a couple of people wearing masks, and I thought, that's dumb. I'd never do that. And here we are. And now I recognize not only the need, but the opportunity. The opportunity, as Paul says, that to the weak I become weak, to the strong I become strong. Whatever it takes, I will become that in order to reach out. Have you had the reaction of going into a store wearing a mask and somebody beside you isn't? And you look and say, where is your care and concern for others? This is our opportunity as a church to recognize we have an opportunity to serve one another, but as we said at the beginning of this, to serve Jesus Christ.
That's right. For our Sunday services, when we are inside the sanctuary here, we are going to ask that you wear a mask the entire time. At our 8 a.m. service, at our 10:45 service here in the sanctuary, please come wearing a mask. If you don't have one, if you forget one, we will have some here for you. We'll have a limited number, but we are going to ask that so that at some services, Saturday night, for those who might feel more comfortable outside, we're going to make masks optional. But to provide a safe environment for those who might be a little more cautious to come back, out of love, out of care, of concern both for them and for Christ, Sunday morning, inside, we are asking that you wear a mask.
Ben, how long? How long do you, that's going to be one of the questions, how long do we have to wear masks? How long will this go on? We've got the 21st weekend set. We've got 27, 28 set. How long?
Our task force is already planning to meet again between those first 2 weekends of worship. Between the 20th and 21st and 27th and 28th, we are going to meet again to reevaluate how things are going. At that time, we will also have been in the Pennsylvania green phase for about 3 weeks. So we're going to be looking at specifically the data, the numbers of how things are going in our entire county. We're going to reevaluate at that time the guidelines that we put in place. So I promise you, we will not do this any longer than we believe that it is beneficial for all of us. So I give you my word, the task force is meeting and is already planning to reevaluate these guidelines as we go along. So we are likely committing to this policy, to this plan for the month of June. But beyond that, we are planning to reevaluate all along the way.
So many other things that we can talk about at maybe another time. Christian education, Sunday school, Bible studies, and the like, but I think we'll save that for another post. And so, dear ones, thank you for your time. We know this is a longer post than others, but it's important information that we're able to share with you. And we ask you to pass that on to others.
We want to direct you to our website. I know this has been a longer post, but there's a lot to communicate. We're going to have a full description of the requirements, of the things that we have in place. Our full plan is going to be on the resources page of our website. There's much more to say. So please, if you would, look to our website in the days to come for a full description. Again, as we think about care, as we think about concern for others, the obvious goes without saying. If you're feeling ill, if you're experiencing symptoms of COVID-19, of other things, we're going to continue to record worship, and we're going to post that online. Online worship will still be available for you, so you are certainly not required to be here in person to experience our weekend worship. You're going to find all the details of that online. So please check out our website in the days to come for more detailed information. Until we see you again, God bless you. We miss you. We can't wait to gather again to celebrate the gifts that our Lord gives us here at St. Luke. Thank you.